Here's a real estate question. Should you fix up a house for sale or sell as a fixer-upper? That's our topic today. We'll get started right after this. A home inspection is one of the hurdles that buyers and sellers have to get through before the house for sale is complete. It's also one of the most important from a buyer's perspective. The inspection is a buyer's final chance to identify any problems with the house for sale that they're investing in, including areas that a fixer-upper house will need repairs, and it's pretty common to want some repairs after a home inspection, especially in older homes and a fixer-upper house. But who's responsible for paying for them, the buyer or the seller? Welcome to our channel. I'm Kim Ward. My team and I have been helping executors, administrators, and trustees with homes in probate or trust administration in beautiful San Diego, California. If you've watched some of my content and you like it, please hit that like button. It helps the YouTube algorithm to share this content with others just like you. Now, as it turns out with real estate, there's a lot that goes into determining who pays for repairs after a home inspection. This includes the offer contract, as well as the types of repairs being requested and the laws in your state. We'll break it down and answer real estate questions so that you have an idea of what to expect, including when the real estate is a fixer-upper. Now, let's discuss the real estate offer contract. When a buyer and a seller go under real estate contract on a house for sale, they both agree to certain contingencies that are outlined in an offer contract. These contingencies primarily determine instances where either the buyer or the seller can walk away from the sale without a penalty. Some buyers, though, particularly those who are purchasing in competitive sellers' real estate market, may make an offer with less stringent contingencies. This was the reality in 2021 and the first half of 2022. One of these includes agreeing to purchase the real estate as is, meaning that they can't back out even in the presence of necessary repairs. That said, this is no longer occurring, but the California Association of Realtors Residential Purchase Agreement clearly states that all real estate, including a fixer-upper house, is sold as is. But the reality is that most buyers, once they have paid for an inspection, will have a list of repair items or a request for the seller of the house for sale to pay towards the buyer's closing costs in lieu of repairs. Actually, this is what most of our executor, administrator, and trustee clients prefer, paying for some of the buyer's closing costs in lieu of repairs when selling the estate, real estate in probate or trust administration. You may have the real estate question, why should you prefer the idea of paying some of the buyer's closing costs instead of agreeing to the repairs? The most important reason is that it relieves you, the personal representative, and the estate of any liability for repairs, even on a fixer-upper house. So what does this all mean when it comes to who pays for repairs after a house for sale inspection? It all comes down to bargaining ability. A buyer who has agreed in the contract to purchase a house as is can certainly request that the seller cover repair costs. In the case of strict contingencies, however, a seller may be willing to cover the costs if it means proceeding with the sale. Consider that Administrator Carol received a request for repair, actually a replacement, for the hot water heater in her deceased mother's home. She initially was very concerned about how she would handle the installation of a water heater in her mom's home in San Diego when she lives in Ohio. We quickly relieved her of the responsibility by explaining that a new water heater would cost approximately $1,400 to be installed by a licensed plumber, and we could negotiate paying some of the buyer's closing costs instead of doing the repair. Carol shared with us that she was initially very worried about that water heater, but quickly felt relieved by our plan of action. We negotiated for Carol and the estate to pay $1,000 towards her buyer's closing costs, and she was happy with that plan, and the buyers were also. We frequently receive the real estate question, what are the types of repairs that home buyers request? Just like most negotiations throughout the real estate selling process, figuring out who pays for what in terms of repairs after a home inspection generally requires a compromise on both ends. And for that reason, it pays for sellers to be strategic in what to be willing to negotiate on the house for sale. A home inspection report will outline all of the issues with the house for sale, both big and small, and most buyers' agents will recommend that their clients focus on the issues that are most important to them instead of presenting the seller with a laundry list of repair requests. A crack in the floor tile may be less than ideal, but it pales in comparison to things like a 25-year-old roof or a broken hot water heater. This is where motivation comes in. A seller who really doesn't want to lose their buyer will be more likely to accommodate repair requests to fix up a house or a request for seller-paid buyer's closing costs. Likewise, a buyer who doesn't want to risk losing out on a house for sale might just decide to take care of the fixes themselves after they've moved in. A caveat to all of this, though, is when it comes to major repairs that reasonably should have known about when putting the real estate on the market. Sellers, including personal representatives, have a legal obligation to disclose any known issues with the home. So what should you know about the laws in California regarding a house for sale? A buyer and seller's real estate agents will be able to fill you in on the real estate laws in San Diego, California, but in general, a seller is responsible to disclose any known issues in writing to the buyer. When you're responsible for a house for sale, we have a California Association of Realtor document known as the Exempt Seller Disclosure. Even when selling a fixer-upper house, the real estate question in the exempt seller disclosure should be carefully completed because the disclosure will protect the personal representative and the estate from any issues even after the real estate sale has been completed. Ultimately, it's up to the negotiations between the buyer and the seller with the help of their real estate agents to determine how the request for repair is addressed, meaning how the repairs will be paid for after the inspection report comes in. Another real estate question is, how do we go about scheduling a home inspection? It's always a good idea to schedule the real estate inspection early on in the house for sale process so that there is plenty of time to negotiate and take care of the requested repairs. We typically negotiate a 10-day period for a home buyer to complete all their real estate inspections. We do this because the real estate home inspection is what can cause a real estate transaction to go sideways. And it's important you know that the buyer's real estate agent should be able to recommend an experienced home inspector to handle the job for their buyer within that 10 days. Most of our personal representative sellers do not live in the San Diego area, but if they are, we highly recommend that the seller be out of the home for the inspection. This allows the buyer and their inspector to talk freely about the house for sale and get as thorough of a look as possible at all of the key systems. A good home inspector will closely examine a number of key structures and systems in and around the house for sale, including electrical, plumbing, heating and cooling systems, the roof, and the foundation, and more. An important real estate question is, how do we go about negotiating repairs after a home inspection? Well, buyers and sellers have a few different means of recourse when it comes to post-inspection repairs. Some buyers ask for the seller to handle the repair on their own, including arranging for the repair and paying for it to take place. Others may ask for a price drop to balance out what they'll have to spend to make the repairs themselves. But again, we recommend agreeing to paying the negotiated dollar amount to the home buyer's closing costs. Another common agreement between buyers and sellers following a home inspection is for the buyer to ask for a home warranty. Home warranties are basically a real estate insurance policy that covers the cost for repairing or replacing things like appliances or heating and cooling systems for a set period of time, usually 1 year from the date of closing the real estate sale. The average price for a home warranty is around $600 for 1 year, which is a relatively small amount of money for a seller to pay to meet some of the buyer's possible repair situations. If a seller refuses to pay for some or all repairs, or again gifts some of the funds from the seller's proceeds to the buyer's closing costs, it's up to the buyer to decide what they want to do. The buyer may choose to cancel the sale and back out and receive their earnest money back from the escrow company. As for the timeline of negotiations, we recommend that the timelines to our personal representative clients, again, referring to the 10 days for buyer inspections versus the 17 days that are defaulted in the California Association of Realtors residential purchase agreement. Regardless of where the decedent's real estate is located and what requests are being made in terms of repairs after a home inspection, it's crucial for both the buyer and the seller that any and all agreements are in writing and signed by both parties. This prevents any miscommunications from taking place that could lead to discontent and also ensures that everyone is entitled to get what they're agreeing to. Be prepared to do at least a little bit of back and forth after the home inspection. If both the buyer and the seller are motivated to make the real estate sale go through, though there hopefully shouldn't be any issues, making sure everyone is happy with the final agreement. A win-win for everyone. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please hit that like button. Go ahead and comment down below about any stories you might have or any questions you might have. And I'll see you next week.